Well, good morning, folks. Wednesday, the 6th of May. Bit of rain, bit of sun at 1995 Island Highway, Campbell River, Nesbitt's Island Coffee. Also home of Dreaming Dude. Trust everybody as well that you're winning at that game of tag with Wuhan. I see they're doing some in-depth research on how this virus got started. And it's starting to look, from the research I've looked at, I'm not looking at gossip columns, but different scientific papers. And although there's some discretion there, so you have to really stand back, see who's paying who, who's connected with who, and watch, see what other papers they've written, and it sort of sorts out the tag-along guys from the real researchers. But it looks like there's a Winnipeg connection, there's a Harvard connection, there's a North Carolina connection, there's an Australian connection, and who knows who else has been working with this virus. And a thing that's common to them all, that Chinese researchers have been involved in each one of those locations. And so it's going to be interesting how whether this was released, whether by accident or stupidity or whatever. And if it is proven to be that this was manipulated in a lab, as Dr. Chris Martinson has pointed out. I'm not sure if you looked at that video. I had a link to it. There's a whole bit of data that's been inserted into the virus that he says is impossible, and is confirmed by other scientists, other researchers, impossible to happen in nature. You might have an addition of one change, but you don't have the big one. So if it is man-made, I think somebody needs more than a kick on the ass on this one. I mean, why are we messing with things like that? You know, there's always, I suppose, excuses, why, but I mean, some things are a bit scary. So I put a link today in the comment section to Dr. Mike Hansen. He's got a bit more, sort of a short video on how this virus is presenting. He works at a hospital in California. And I also have a link to Zell. He's a billionaire investor, older fellow, interesting comments on the economy and how we might get back, what might happen, how various sectors might change. He's not as well known, I suppose, as Warren Buffett, but he's a pretty successful guy. And I found his comments intriguing. Not that I agree with them all, but for the most part I do. But I think as we roll and get back to work, the success of that is going to depend on how much fiddling bureaucrats, planners, and politicians are going to have in the picture. I mean, if they mess around too much, it will be a disaster. I'm not sure if you're paying attention to Ontario, but they have fined a lot of people for just being out in the fresh air by themselves or with one of their children and nobody else around. And they get accosted by bylaw officers and police officers who are not social distancing, not wearing masks, are putting that person perhaps at risk, yet giving this person who was out by themselves in the middle of nowhere on a park that's empty, either sitting on a bench in one case, shooting hoops by himself in another case, skateboarding by himself on another case, and a lady pushing her daughter on the swing, just the two of them at an empty park. Yep, power gets to politicians and bureaucrats' heads, there's no doubt about it. And we let that happen. And if we continue to let that happen, well, we're going to get what we're going to get. So I think as we roll out, it's going to be better than people are imagining. They say, well, people are never going to get together again. Well, have you been to Costco? Have you been to Walmart? Have you been to Superstore? Have you been to Indian Home Depot? I mean, there's lineups. People are still out doing stuff. Some of them are wearing masks, not all of them. But I think people being people, they're not going to, majority of people aren't going to stay scared in their rooms once we open it up. If you listen to Dr. Mike Hansen, this is definitely a sort of nasty virus if you get it. So you want to take precautions not to, but you can't run around in a bubble sort of thing. As with everything, you've got to stand back and just look at things and make up your own mind. You know, I remember the day when a lot of scientists and doctors said smoking was okay for you. I remember my mother's friend, my mom never smoked, but her friend did. She had a sore throat and her doctor suggested she start smoking menthol cigarettes. It could help. And I remember my doctor used to have a pipe in his office, not just for a show, but he used to smoke it. Go in for examination and he'd go over to his desk and take a draw on his pipe. Hard to believe today, but that's how we've come a long way. So as you look at science and you look at medical people and you look at the so-called experts, you always have to really double down on research and see if you can find connecting dots anywhere where researchers are thinking the same or follow the money. I mean, you listen to the World Health Organization and that's what everybody's doing. They're dictating what we do. And hell, they've been wrong several times. And you know, look at the connections they have with China, with Bill Gates, with Dr. Fauci. Getting back to this lab stuff, I mean, under his auspices, I think they, a couple $1 million or more went to Wuhan to help them with their research. It's interesting. So anyway, that's about all for today. Again, we've had a bit of light hail and rain and sun and a lot of things this morning. So take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.